One of the biggest misconceptions in property investing is that bad deals fell because the numbers were completely wrong from the beginning. In reality, a lot of deals fell because small things were missed during due diligence, which then becomes expensive later. I've seen investors buy properties without properly checking licensing requirements, service charges, refurbishments costs, planning restrictions, and all of the management complexities. It wasn't because they were careless, usually because they were moving too quickly, relying on incomplete information, or simply didn't have a solid process in place. And honestly, this is one of the reasons I think due diligence is massively underestimated, because most property deals look reasonable at first glance. The problems usually sit underneath the surface. One of the first things I always check now is whether the numbers I'm being shown are actually realistic, because estate agent projections and seller expectations are not always grounded in reality. Sometimes the rent is optimistic, sometimes the refurb costs are underestimated, or sometimes occupancy assumptions are unrealistic. And if you build your analysis around inflated assumptions, the entire deal becomes distorted from the beginning. That's why I always independently sense check everything before making decisions. Another area I think investors underestimate is operational due diligence. For example, I've seen people buy HMOs without fully understanding the licensing requirements or the management that comes with it. On paper, the income looked super attractive, but operationally, the deal became far more difficult than they had expected and anticipated. And this is why I always say property investing isn't just about the numbers. It's about understanding what you are actually buying into. The same applies to leasehold properties. Service charges, ground rent, structures, lease lengths, planned works on buildings, all of these things can affect the long-term performance of a deal. But many investors either skip over them or don't fully understand the implications. Then there's refurbishment due diligence. This is another area where people regularly underestimate costs. A refurb budget might look manageable initially, but once work begins, unexpected issues always appear. One of the biggest mistakes I see nowadays is investors trying to confirm a deal works rather than properly pressure testing it. They want the property to make sense emotionally, so they subconsciously ignore things that don't fit that narrative. That's why having a structured due diligence process matters so much. The CORE Toolkit was designed to slow down decision making and create consistency in how deals are assessed. Not because every deal needs endless analysis, but because missing one important detail can completely change the quality of that investment. And usually, the investors who survive long term aren't the ones chasing the most exciting opportunities, but the ones who avoid unnecessary mistakes. If you want the full due diligence templates, checklists, and frameworks that I personally use when reviewing property deals, they're all inside the CORE Toolkit. And honestly, if you're newer to investing, improving your due diligence process will probably protect you more than absolutely anything else early on. I look forward to seeing you in the next video.